Hello and welcome to Second Chance MTG. I'm Alex Gabriel, and today we're going to have some Commander. We have Parent of Clan Nel Toth going up against Scion of the Dragon. Now, these decks are not necessarily what you expect. Charlie in particular likes to play a lot of interesting cards in his Commander deck. Not all of them actually being format legal, but being very interesting for game state. And again, it'll be fascinating to see where the game goes. The Meren deck is a little more standard. It has a lot of the tools you'd expect to see in that deck. A lot of, creature reanimation and sacrifice outlets and just a lot of card advantage and, again, just being able to manipulate the graveyard and the field. So, again, it'll be very interesting to see how the matchup goes. Charlie, again, playing the Scion deck. Looks like he has a Soul Ring in his hand. So that's a very good start for these Commander decks. Obviously, 1v1 Soul Ring is not normally legal, but we're not really playing by all the traditional rules here. Commander being a social format and all. It looks like he's starting with a Murdering Bosk and going to pass the turn. Eric DeBard, it's hard to see exactly what's in his hand, but he has a Forest at the very least, so that's good. Looks like he's playing something on turn 1. It's going to be a Spore Frog. Very good in his deck. It allows him with the Meren in order to get a free sack outlet and to fog basically forever against his opponent. So Charlie's going to have to find a way to interact with the graveyard or with the Meren lest he get locked out of damage forever. Looks like there's a Scalding Tarn, and there's a Soul Ring that Charlie had. Again, not normally legal in the 1v1 Commander format, but again, we're not really playing by traditional rules. Again, Commander being a social format. As long as both players agree to what's in the decks, it's usually okay. And it's going to be Eric's turn after the Soul Ring. He and Charlie didn't have too much to do with it. You go ahead and place a Swamp there, and he's going to attack with a Spore Frog. Got to get your value where it's there. Alright, so it looks like he's got a follow-up. It's a Sakura Tri-Builder. Oh, that's a very good card in the Meren deck. This is... if you guys ever played with the Precons, that was always the Nightmare Start, the turn 2 Tri-Builder. And again, with the Meren, it's going to be able to just ramp out of control. Charlie's going to have to really step up his game right now in order to keep up with this. Alright, looks like he's getting Plateau here. I wonder if he has any instant effects or if he's just fetching to thin out the deck. Fetching in Commander is always kind of tedious because there's a lot of singletons, so it's sometimes kind of hard to find the exact land you want. And again, shuffling Commander decks, most people don't even bother to cut their opponent's Commander deck. It's just too much work. Alright, so he's going to draw. Looks like it was a Polluted Delta added to the grip. He's got a Mountain, Polluted Delta. Kind of hard to tell what else is going on in the hand right now, but looks like he's got some spells in there. Attracted Delta, he's going to go to 27. Now, I'm curious if Eric will decide to sack the Tri-Builder at the end step. He probably does because he wants to get the Meren and play as soon as possible. Though, it's not always correct to sack the Tri-Builder, especially in Commander. I find myself frequently, if I have like Aya's Cradle or something that cares about how many creatures I have in play, sometimes I'll keep the Tri-Builder around for a couple turns. Now, again, Charlie fetching, probably. I think his deck is primarily red, so yeah, he's going to fetch another red source. That is a Badlands. I do not believe it is of the beta or alpha variety. It looks very much colored, unfortunately. But it's still a Badlands, so, does what it needs to do. Alright, going to let him offer to cut. Is going to do a decline. Alright, looks like that is a Memory Jar. Well, folks, that is a very powerful card. It is one of the few formats where you're allowed to play it. Memory Jar, again, you're able to do so much with that card, and it'll be interesting to see if Charlie's able to leverage it for a real advantage. It looks like he has is that a Kozilek the Butcher of Truth in his hand? And some other lands. Charlie has a lot of mana this game, which is very good for him. Yeah, unsurprisingly, Eric's going to sack the Tri-Builder end step again. He probably just wants to get Meren to play as fast as possible to start accruing some advantage. Memory Jar, while being very powerful, is not necessarily the best against the Meren deck, because his deck is so good at recurring its resources that, making him discard his hand isn't necessarily going to be that bad. If anything, Eric will probably welcome having more selection in his graveyard. Now, the Memory Jar is still being very powerful for Charlie because he'll be able to play the cards he gets off of it right away, as long as it survives up to the next turn. Alright, it looks like Eric's offering to shuffle. Charlie will oblige him. Alright, Eric, go ahead and take a draw. Alright, we have a Forest here. He's going to play Meren. There it is. And Charlie's going to give it a read. He's not too familiar with the card. It's kind of newer to him. He doesn't play a ton of Commander himself. Meren being very powerful in Commander, and again, Looks like he's going to get with the Sport Frog again, as he should. You must make sure to extract every bit of value you can out of your cards. Alright. Looks like Eric's going to get an experience card, sacking the Sport Frog. I'm a little surprised to see that. I feel like he didn't necessarily need to start doing that right away. I think he'd rather pick up the Tri-Belter here. But regardless, looks like he wants to get the experience counters going right now so that he can start getting stuff into play. Alright, so it looks like he's going to return the Sport Frog. A little surprising again. I kind of expected him to get the Tri-Belter instead because I feel like the ramping is probably more important than the Fog at this point. But we'll see. Looks like he draws a Tundra for turn, Charlie, that is. He has that memory jar. The question is he going to fire it off now? I mean, his hand looks like he has a lot of lands in it and a Kozilek, so yeah, it looks like he is going to fire it off. Looks like both players have to set their hand aside. They're going to draw 7. And then looks like Charlie's only going to be the only one to get real use out of these cards, being that Eric is tapped out. Though again, not too bad for Eric because he gets to put all those cards in his graveyard, and with Meren, he'll be able to recur a lot of the creatures and other cards that he puts in his graveyard. Alright, looks like Charlie got a lot of lands in that. Trying to see what else. Yeah, this looks like a decent amount of lands. I see, is that a Winter Orb? It might be a Winter Orb, I'm not 100% sure. Winter Orb seems like it'd be pretty good in this spot. Dude, he has a Soul Ring, and the Meren deck typically doesn't like to use a lot of its lands. It would put a lot of pressure on the Tri-Belter, but I'm not sure. I actually don't think that's a Winter Orb. It looks like it might be a Ponder instead. Okay, looks like he's gonna play Bloodstained Mire. Yeah, Charlie plays some little bit of oddball cards, so sometimes it's a little hard to tell necessarily what's going on in his hand at all times. But it looks like he's going to fetch. He's going to have something to do here. Alright, go through there. Okay, he's looking at Taiga, but he doesn't want it. Looks like he's going to go for something else here. But he's pretty close to casting Scion, so that's always nice. Alright, well. Alright, looks like he grabbed a Volcanic Island. Alright, what's he going to play here? Let's see. Looks like he's making 6 mana for... Oh, right, that is, I believe, Hellkite Gorger? Forget the name of the card, but I believe it gives him extra combat steps if he pays 5 mana into it. And it looks like Eric's going to Fog here. And yeah, he's going to, okay, end step Memory Jar is going to resolve the effect, and they're both going to discard their hands to put the original cards on their hand back in their hand. So again, Eric pretty happy about this, I imagine. He gets a lot of really good stuff in his graveyard. He's able to recur that in his deck. Between cards like Eternal Witness and other recursive elements such as Meren herself. Looks like it's going to be Eric's turn here. Looks like Charlie is once again reading over Meren to see exactly what the powerful creature does. Alright, just going to pass it back over to Eric, who looks like he has a Stinkweed Dip, among other things, in his hand. I'm not sure necessarily what he wants to do here. That dragon's putting some pressure on his life total. And, I mean, you can keep recurring the Spore Frog, but he probably wants to start accruing some real advantage and not just fending off the Dragon Onslaught that Charlie is bringing. So I think he probably wants to find a way to answer the dragon, or at least bolster his life total enough that he's able to take a hit or two from it. Look at Eric's really contemplating what's in Charlie's graveyard there. Alright, so he's going to play a Bajuka Bog. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure that Eric already played a land this turn. Yeah, he played the Meren on the previous turn. Yeah, so unfortunately, that looks like to be a slight game error from our players here. But there's not much we can do about it now. So all right, looks like Meren's gonna get in there for 3 damage herself. You know, put some pressure on the opponent. And he's got the Sneak Dip, does a good job of blocking that dragon. Normally that card doesn't have a lot of text on it, but right here now it's actually very solid against what Charlie's trying to do. Looks like he's going to bring back Sakura Trap Elder at the end step. Again, the combo with Meren. That's so powerful. Alright, it's going to be Charlie's turn. Charlie's going to tap. We'll take a draw. Let's see what Charlie can do to get out of this. Looks like Charlie's he's enjoying himself despite the precarious position he's in. And he's mulling over what he's got in the grip right now. Looks like he's going to play the Tundra. Alright, again, I see some lands in his hand. I see, I think there's a Codes like Butcher of Truth. It's a little whiles away from that still. I see, I can't tell what that card is in his hand. It looks like a white card. He could cast Scion here. It looks like he has all the appropriate mana to do so. But is that really going to be something that gets him far off ahead in this game? Now, I don't think Charlie plays a particularly combo-heavy Scion deck, so unfortunately making Scion isn't really going to win him the game here. So he's going to have to find something else, I think, to really pull far ahead. Alright, that looks like an Eternal Dragon, actually. That's not a bad card in this spot either. It is a card that does a very good job of attacking and blocking, being that he can just recur it from the graveyard as many times as he wants. And again, the Sakura Trap Elder doing its thing with Meren, just getting Eric more lands, and which is going to let him cast more spells. And again, the Meren just spirals so far out of control if you're not interacting with the graveyard at all. Charlie is I think he's gonna find himself in a really hard spot if he doesn't find something to interact with Eric pretty soon. All right, looks like Eric's gonna go ahead and take a draw in a second here. Oh, there it is. See what he's able to find here. Alright, so again, he's got a lot of options in this spot. He has the Expedition map to help find whatever land he needs. Maybe maybe Urborg. Looks like he's going to play an Astronaut's Altar. That is a very good card in the Meren deck. Can spiral out of control very quickly, and that is a Merciless Executioner. Very good against the board that Charlie has. Both of his creatures are very large and expensive, so it is very unfortunate for him that he has to lose one here. And again, the Meren deck's starting to spiral out of control already. He can recur the Merciless Executioner at the end step and just keep Charlie off creatures potentially for the rest of the game. It looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to go to end step and trigger the Meren, and the Executioner is going to come back and sack the dragon again. And Charlie is in a real tight spot here. It's going to be really hard for him to come back. Alright, Charlie's going to draw. It's like he drew a red card. It's hard to tell what it is from here. Charlie has a lot of mana, but again, the Meren deck is starting to spiral out of control. He's going to have to find some graveyard hay very soon, because interacting with the board at this point is probably not good enough due to the fact that the Meren just comes back and starts bringing everything back. It's like that is some kind of dragon. It's hard to tell what it is from here. I'm not sure. It's not one I necessarily recognize, so I'm not sure if it'll be able to necessarily get him out of this predicament. I don't know if they printed any dragons with Tomat's crypt effects attached to them, but that's what he would really want right now. Looks like good old Stinky's going to get sacked to the Astronaut's Altar to trigger Meren's experience counter and to get 2 mana. Looks like he just wanted to get... looks like he wants to dredge the Imp, I assume, during the draw step, in order to find more stuff to do. Because at this point, he's so far ahead, he wants to find a way to close out the game. Looks like that is a Skullwinder, a High Market, Birthing Pot, I believe, Viscera Seer, and a Reclamation Sage. Now, it's going to be similar to maybe the Dredge deck. We're going to have to fan out this graveyard a little bit more, because the Meren deck tends to get a pretty large graveyard, especially if no one's interacting with it. Looks like he had a lot of fine hits off of that, and almost any of those creatures would be very beneficial to him closing out the game. I'm surprised to see him not try to crack the Expedition map with the floating mana from the Astronaut's Altar, because it was essentially free and he could have found maybe a cycle land or something to kind of dig in for some more gas. But it looks like he has enough mana at this point, and he can cast whatever mostly what he needs. So I think he probably just needs to find a way to close out the game in some way. Looks like he's going to crack it now. I think he may have just not seen the Astronaut's Altar interaction, but that's fine. What land does he want here? He probably wants an Urborg or Cabal Coffers. I mean, those Cabal Coffers at this point would only make 1 mana, but that'd be fine, because every swamp he gets subsequently would be very powerful. So I think that's a good one to get here. Even a cycle land. So it looks again he has a lot of mana already, so maybe he doesn't want the land. It looks like he is going for the Cabal Coffers though, the very powerful land from Torment. Cabal Coffers being a staple in most Plat Commander decks. It is the engine of which most of them run by. The Meren deck in particular doesn't necessarily need the Cabal Coffers, but it being so powerful is just something that most black decks will usually go out of their way to play, even if they don't play that many swamps. Alright, well, looks like he's going to shuffle after that, and see what else we're going to have here. He's got that Stinkweed back in his hand. He can always play that. I mean, it does a good job of blocking these dragons. He's getting to the point where the experience counters are going to not matter anymore. He'll just be able, the Meren will just be able to reanimate whatever he wants at the end of every turn. Cabal Coffers will make 4 mana here. Or it'll be 3, I'm sorry. 3 mana. He's going to cast a Stinkweed Nip again. Looks like he tapped a little awkwardly, not really leaving himself any green, but that's probably fine. He probably doesn't have anything to do with it. So he's going to sack it to the altar. He must have something to do here. He's going to have 3 mana here. He's going to... just like Tragic Slip the Dragon. It's interesting. Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure what that dragon, if it was necessary. I'm not 100% sure what the dragon did, but I guess that's what he wants to do. And that's an Entomb. That's real scary for Charlie. Entomb essentially just reads, take a target creature card and put it into play from your deck, and that's going to be very problematic for Charlie at this point. Looks like he's eyeing that Grave Titan, though. It looks like he also might be going for the Archfiend Depravity here. Looks like right now, Eric's the world's his oyster. He can just do what he wants. It looks like that's an Avenger of Zendikar, I think he put in the graveyard. I'm having a hard time looking, and I believe it is. And Avenger of Zendikar, in tangent with any kind of pump effect, is going to put an end to this game rather quickly. Looks like he's still double checking if that's what he wants, but I think that might be his selection. The Meren deck has so many options in this spot. It can there's so many things it can do that, again, without Charlie interacting with the graveyard, it's just so hard for him to compete with the resources that Eric has at his disposal. All right, looks like we have end step trigger on the Meren. He's going to bring back, I believe, the Avenger Zendikar, which in turn is going to bring a lot of creatures along with it. Look, he's counting his lands right now. Looking like about eight plants. Yeah, that's it's going to be a very fast clock for Charlie, especially if Eric has a fetch land or something rolled up in his that he's able to get next turn and just really put the pressure on Charlie to find an answer. The problem with against the Meren deck is not only do you have to answer the board, you have to answer the graveyard as well, because answering the board is only a temporary solution to the problem because he's able to recur so many of these threats. Alright, what's Charlie have? Looks like he's got a couple cards in his hand. Not sure what they do to interact with what Eric's doing right now, but it should be interesting to see where the game goes from here. Four mana. I'm not sure what the card he just played there is. It looks it's kind of hard to see. It looks like a creature of some kind. But I'm not 100% sure. Well, nonetheless, Eric's going to keep on trucking along here. Looks like he's going to take a draw. He wants to draw land for the Avengers Zendikar, which he did. He's going to get a trigger. All his plants are going to get bigger. Alright, they're all 1/2s now. And between the Meren and the Avengers Zendikar, it's going to have a lot of resources here in order to really bully Charlie out of the game, I believe. Alright, looks like they're having a little discussion about Avengers Zendikar. Alright, so right now at the moment, Eric has about 13 power? No, 15 power in play right now. Or 16, I apologize. 16 power, he's going to swing at Charlie. Let's see what Charlie wants to do here. Well, that Charlie's going to take it. He's going to go down to 6 here. It's going to be really hard. He might be blocking, looks like. He's got to do something here. This board's getting out of control. Alright, so he's going to block the Avengers in a car. So we'll actually only end up taking 11 here, so it'll put him down to 11. Looks like he's got one more turn to find an answer, and yeah, that creature is going to die to the Avengers in the car. Yeah, this is like Meren's going to trigger end step, and she's going to bring back Reclamation Chase killing the Soul Ring. I like this play. Usually when you're ahead in Commander, one of the best strategies you can do is just pin someone on mana and not allow them to find ways to answer your board. And I think Charlie drew in on a land, which is probably going to... actually, is that a Eureka? That might be a Eureka. One of the not legal in Commander cards that Charlie likes to play in his deck. Because, again, Commander being a social game, Charlie likes to play the cards he grew up with as a child. And, again, his deck is clearly not fully optimized to kill his opponent as quickly as possible. So most people don't have an issue with him playing these cards. And in fact, they're very, very interesting to see them in play sometimes. Alright, looks like he's just passing the turn. Eric's going to draw. Or it looks like, no, he's going to dredge the Stinkweed Imp. Interesting. I guess he just wants to find more answers or more options with the Meren. He wants to be able to have as much access to his graveyard as possible. And Charlie is clearly showing that he's not interacting with the graveyard here, so it's probably fine for him to put more cards in there. Alright, well, I'm pretty sure he's just going to... Looks like he might be playing the Stinkweed Imp here. Going to cast the Imp, and I think he's just going to move to combat and just swing the team in, and I don't know what Charlie's recourse is going to be. Looks like he's asking something here. Or not, he's just backing it in. And that's it, folks. Looks like Eric got there. Meren showing off her power and showing off her relentlessness to win the game.